I don't need to hear any more words from Kyrie. I need to see your play on the court. And your play on the court showed me something different than the words you delivered after the game. Because on the court, I saw a guy who was passive. I didn't see a guy who was aggressive. I didn't see a guy that was playing like his back was against the wall and they were in a closeout game scenario. After the game was over, Key, this blows my mind. After the game was over, brother, I'm watching Kyrie on the floor, and he's hugging and he's smiling with his former teammates after they've gotten swept. Swept. Key, they got swept. So they were the first preseason title favorite team to get swept in over 35 years. How do you have a smile on your face? Where's the intensity, Key? I don't get it.
You know, athletes are a little bit different this day and age. I mean, I hate to say it that way to make it sound like I'm 1,000 years old, but they're a little bit different. No, I'm not. And in the end, when you think about it, that's just who Kyrie is, right? He's outgoing personality with other players that he played with. Now, do I like that? No. Would I have done that? No. Would I have walked off the locker room into the locker room as the clock ticked down? Yes. And then I would have just dealt with the media after the fact. Look, he didn't play nearly as aggressive as we would have liked. He didn't do any of those sort of things. So a lot of this, in my opinion, falls on his shoulders, believe it or not. The way they got swept is a lot has to do with Kyrie's decision-making at the beginning when he came back from his little bit of a hiatus. He almost, to a degree, I would say, forced James Harden to ask for a trade. And then when he came back, yes, it was a lot of one-on-one. Oh, my God, Kyrie's cooking. He's doing something spectacular. Look, I can't believe that this dude is balling the way that he's balling. He hasn't eaten. You know, we came up with every scenario we could think of. In the end, it all falls on his shoulders, though, because he is the main reason, in my opinion, the Brooklyn Nets are in this position. It's not about Steve Nash. It's not about Kevin Durant, because if his little butt was taking care of business and didn't make the decisions that he made, which at the end of the day is his choice, this team would have had James Harden on it, and they probably wouldn't be in this situation on the 4-0 sweep. They're going to the second round.
I appreciate that point, because you can make a personal choice and it affects you professionally negatively. And even if you say, well, I would do it again, those are the consequences of your decision, right? Here's the thing, though, I think that you're hitting on, Jay, that I noticed in this series. I never thought they were going to win last night, the Nets. Even when KD made a beautiful pass, KD hit a shot, and it's like it's a one-point game, and I forgot how many possessions were left in the game. It wasn't much time left in the game. I'm like, man, the Nets aren't going to get this. And they should be up 3-1. If they were a team, they'd be up 3-1. But I think what you're identifying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if there's something wrong in the core of the team, if it's not right in there, you're going to lose those kind of close games, right? When you think about this series, even with everything that you guys said, and no James Harden and no Ben Simmons, and everything you said, Jay, those were 3 of those 4. I really think the Nets should. They should have won last night. They should have won when they were up 17 game 2. They should have won when KD got caught ball watching on Jason Tatum game 1. And if they were a team, if they were a unit, if that little thing inside was fixed, this is KD's team, they knew which direction they were pulling. They win those games, but they're not, and they lost those games.
Well, that's the problem, Max. The best player sets the tone 24/7. And a lot of times, other players may not like it, but they know what time it is, right? There's a sense of power that comes along with that. And my thing is that when you watch this team throughout the entire year, that power there's been a struggle with it, right? It's been Kyrie's had a lot of power. I'm not condoning it, but even hearing inside rumors around James Harden saying that, well, why do you guys always acquiesce to Kyrie Irving? You guys are holding me to a different standard than you hold Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's not doing this, but then Steve Nash is yelling at me. Well, whose damn team is it? So that's what I'm getting to, Key. KD needs to be the guy like, yo, this is my team. That's it. Enough with all this. Kyrie, what you're doing is not acceptable. No more. It won't happen anymore.
Well, you got to remember, though, Jay, that's a personal relationship.
That's what I'm saying, though, Key. That personal relationship has too much influence over the organization.
Yeah, but when you have a personal relationship with somebody, it's a little bit different than you and I being able to just grab it and say, yo, you going to roll this way or else I'm out. Or there's a relationship, and that relationship lends itself to KD probably being less aggressive in his approach than a normal individual would be.
That is,
And James Harden doesn't have a personal relationship with Kyrie, so at the end of the day, he like, bump that. I don't really care. And so the best thing for him to do was pack his bags and go somewhere else.
But it sounds key to me that Jay is saying that relationship needs to evolve, right?
Yes.
It needs to
Next
to
level
change
now.
in certain
that
ways.
that may be the case, Jay. You know better than me about the relationship because you've dealt with both parties in different circumstances. In the end, though, you still got a relationship there. And how much does Kevin Durant value that relationship with Kyrie Irving? If he values it to the degree that he's willing to continue to put up with whatever Kyrie is doing, what can we do? What could he do better yet?
You can value your brother while not minimizing what your legacy is going to be. And let me tell you how you value your brother the right way. Look, man, if you don't want to do things the way I want them to be done because I'm here to win chips, then we need to talk about this right now because then this needs to go different directions.
I think it's even deeper than that, Jay. What you seem to be, it's my interpretation of the conversation you guys are having is that the relationship itself needs to evolve.
That's what I just said.
In order for the product, but it's not so simple as, hey, this is the way we're going to play basketball. It's that their interpersonal relationship has to evolve, and that will manifest itself on the court, right? Like KD's got to assert himself.
But that's what I was just saying. That's why I just said, like, Kyrie, look, either you're going to get on board with how I want to do things and what standard of excellence I have with how I see this organization moving forward, and if you don't, I love you, then we need to move in different directions.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.